Today I'll walk through how we finished the rear doors of our Mercedes Sprinter camper van. We'll be adding insulation, sound deadening, custom panels, and rear door organizers. It's a space that's easy to overlook, but with the right upgrades can be super functional, so let's get into it. In terms of material, here's what we used. 1/4-inch Baltic birch scraps, a couple of 1 foot by 2 feet pieces should be enough, and we'll cut those down to fit. Thinsulate insulation, 3M90 adhesive, Kilmat sound deadening, 1/4 20+ nuts, plus stainless steel bolts for those, Loctite, Rust-Oleum touch-up paint, and for tools, we'll need a drill and a drill bit, plus a stop collar, a pneumatic plus nut gun, and a trim removal tool set also is helpful. Okay, step number 1, remove the old panels. The first thing we did was remove the plastic factory panels. It's easy to do, just pop the trim clips out and remove. And again, having a trim removal tool makes this a lot easier and prevents damage in case you want to put them back in for some reason. And the bottom passenger side panel is a little trickier since it has the handle mechanism. You just have to work around this to remove the panel. And I'll talk more about that handle later as we go to install the new panel, the storage panel. Now that that's quickly out of the way, on to step 2, installing the upper panels. For the upper panel section, we'll install small plywood panels just to give it a finished look, and the plywood will be strong enough to hold speakers that will also be installed. I use the factory panels as templates to trace onto the Baltic birch plywood and then cut to size. After cutting the panels, I sanded down the edges for a clean look. Next, I gave them a coat of white paint, including the edges, since they'll be visible when installed. Next, we used the factory holes to mount the panels, which made things easier. I drilled them out slightly larger than they were originally using a 1/2 inch or a 5/8 inch bit. You just have to make it so that the plus nuts can fit and slide into the holes. And an important point here is to use a drill stop so you don't accidentally drill farther than you should. A drill stop is just a small steel ring that clamps onto the drill bit at whatever depth you want and only allows the drill to go in so far. It'll save you from drilling through the outside panel of the van by accident. So once the holes were drilled, I touched up the raw metal with Rust-Oleum spray paint for rust prevention, then installed the plus nuts using this Kiaru pneumatic tool, which I've talked about in previous videos. It's a huge time saver over manual options. I have it linked in the description in case there's interest. Next, we drill the attachment holes in the panels. To ensure the holes are in the right spot, here's what I did. I inserted bolts into the plus nuts that we just installed in the van doors, marked the heads of the bolts with ink from a marker, and quickly pressed the panel against them before the ink dries. Now this transfers some of the ink onto the panel and allows you to see exactly where the holes should be. So once you've done that, once marked, you can drill the holes and then touch up the finished side from any scuffs or marks. Next, we added Thinsulate into the upper cavity and mounted the panels. I skipped the Loctite for now since I will be pulling them back off later to install the speakers. Now on to the middle section. For better acoustics, we added Kilmat sound deadening and followed that up with Thinsulate insulation. And to cover the doors, I used Van Essentials rear door organizers for both the middle and the lower sections, which you'll see later. These provide a lot of nice storage options once installed, and they are super easy to install. You just drill and attach with screws all the way around. Once you're done with one of the doors, just move on to the next and repeat the process. It's pretty straightforward. Now moving on to the lower section. We installed insulation here also. It took a bit more effort to work around the door supports, as you can see, but still pretty straightforward. I used painter's tape to hold the organizer in place while I drilled pilot holes through the organizer into the metal. And now again, just work your way around, attaching it with the screws every 6 to 10 inches. I did attach the screws in a star pattern rather than going one right next to the other, just to make sure I didn't end up at the end with bunched up material. The organizer kit also includes this triangle piece, which is optional to install. I did go ahead and install it as it's just another storage option, right? And it keeps things secure when the van's in motion. One note here, when installing the lower passenger side, you will have to remove that plastic door handle. The handle has a bit of trim with it, so the organizer panel will go behind the handle. It was a little tricky to remove since you have to do it without being able to see it while it's attached to the door. But basically this clip that you see here is what you need to press that allows it to be removed. But once you get the handle removed, put the insulation in. You can secure it with 3M90 adhesive as well if you need to. And then hold the panel in place, reattach the door handle, and screw in the panel like the others. And as mentioned before, we had speakers installed and wired into the van system, so the rear audio integrates cleanly with the front. The volume and the fader work just like as if it came that way from the factory. And that's it. Here's the finished result. Clean, insulated, functional, and ready to use. So, storage is always a need in these vans, so this rear door storage helps address some of that need and what could otherwise be wasted space. If you want to see all of the previous build videos in this series, I've got a link to that series here, as well as a link to my previous build series where I build out a Ram ProMaster, so be sure to check that out too. So thanks for watching and see you next time.
Yay, Vans!